This is a McLaren F1 GTR Longtail. Chassis number 19R. It's the first of only 10 Longtail F1s ever produced. It was the factory prototype and development car, and it's the last McLaren F1 to ever have an overall victory at a major international race. Since this time, it's been road converted by Gordon Murray Design and Lanzante, and it's now UK road registered. McLaren F1 is the greatest car ever built, which is widely regarded by many others as the same. This is a car that McLaren absolutely nailed right out of the box. It was their first road car, and they sat down, Ron Dennis, Mansour Ogier, Gordon Murray, Creighton Brown, and decided that if they were going to create a road car, it had to basically upset the already established supercar hierarchy. And what Gordon Murray done is he completely rewrote the supercar rule book, which has never since been repeated. Not just on its, at the fact of it was so much quicker than anything else at the time, which, everybody is interested in the speed and what's the 0 to 60 and 0 to 100 and 0 to 240. But the fact of that this car was so innovative, everything was specially designed for the car, right down to the Kenwood radio system and, the special piece of luggage to the gold foil on the engine bay to be able to keep the heat down. And that central driving position is something that obviously has since been repeated recently with the McLaren Speedtail, but that feeling that the driver gets, there's no driver's car like a McLaren F1. And when you take time to consider on what it was competing against in period, things of like a Ferrari F50, it's just a different league. And McLaren F1 is the ultimate driver's car, and for me, the greatest car ever built. '19R was the first Longtail to ever be road converted. At the time, the owner, who is a supercar driver member, he sat down with Lanzante and said, is it possible, how can we properly road convert this car? Can you road convert a Longtail GTR as you road converted the short tail GTRs? Lanzante thought it would be possible, but it was something that was such a huge operation that they only wanted to do it with Gordon Murray's personal involvement. So Lanzante Dean approached Gordon Murray. Gordon Murray was up for the task, and it was quite fortunate that the team at Gordon Murray Design, a lot of that team were at McLaren throughout the F1 project. They managed to document this whole conversion in a fantastic book that accompanies the car today. All the testing that was done on 19R, as it was the development car when the car was in 96 and 97 for the Longtail project, the cars continued to be the development car, because every Longtail that has been converted for road use in the last few years, that conversion has all been based upon 19R. So, the car has a habit of being the development car. and also all of the racing parts that were removed all accompany the car today. The car has a huge spares package, and if somebody wanted to return the car to full race spec, even including the spec that it raced in Japan, which was slightly different, it had a different splitter, then all of that accompanies the car today, and it could very easily be converted back. Although I have to be honest, I've driven the car around the track as it is, and it's phenomenal in road spec around the track. So I think it's kind of the best of both worlds, where you could stick a set of slicks on it as it is, enjoy it around the track, and then if you want to put your normal tyres back on, you can drive it home. Remember, a McLaren F1 was the car that's notorious that it's a car that could drive to Le Mans. It actually won Le Mans and then could drive home. What's it like to drive on the road? It's not a difficult car to drive on the road. You know, Longtail cars, I was originally skeptical on how well Gordon Murray and Lanzante could have converted the car for road use. But I drove it with you guys for many hours the other day when we done our filming. Adam accompanied me in the passenger seat for a lot of it. You're very driver focused, so you're very much, the whole experience orientates around the driver, but the gearbox is very easy unit to use, the sequential gearbox. The clutch is as heavy as you'd expect it to be, but not too heavy. You have your headphones on to be able to speak with the passenger if you want to, but to be perfectly honest and without being rude to Adam, I was more interested in enjoying the hours I was spending driving the car than chatting about our current pandemic. And you know, it's the suspension. I would imagine in full race mode you will obviously feel if you ran over a coin if it was on heads or tails, but you know, with the road conversion, the suspension is stiff enough where you can get the benefit of the car around a racetrack, but it's not too stiff that you can't drive it on the road and you're not, you know, shaking around like a bag of nails. The car is a very usable car. F1s in particular, you know, just a normal road F1, that's what for me makes them so special, because these are cars that you can actually use. You know, a guy in the UK has done 44,000 miles or 46,000 miles in his F1, and he's owned the car from new. It's a very well-known story that in period a German businessman bought his car to be able to commute from Switzerland to Germany every day, and you know, commuting at very high speeds. So these are cars that Gordon Murray didn't design them to just sit on a pedestal. He did design the cars to be the ultimate driver's car, and that's what they are. Even down to the short-tail GTRs and the long-tail GTRs, these are cars that you should get out on the road, you should use, you should enjoy, because they're an experience that, I'm Ferrari through and through, but there's no Ferrari in the world that can compete with a McLaren F1. A McLaren F1, it's on a different level. You know, they have all these fantastic supercars, and everybody's aspiration, if you're into supercars, should be a McLaren F1. You can have your F40, you can have your 288 GTOs, you can have your Porsche GT1s and your 959s, and none of them, stick them all together, none of them come close to a McLaren F1. actually the original livery that the car was launched in the end of 1996. It's the livery that McLaren used for their sales brochure, and how it all came around was that Gordon Murray wanted to highlight and show off to the press, to the likes of Mercedes-Benz and Porsche with their respective GT1 and CLK GTRs, exactly the improvement that McLaren had made for the 97 season, and to accentuate and highlight the extended bodywork. And by doing that, they decided to paint the car in black and to use these psychedelic accents to accentuate that bodywork. You could choose any livery that a car has actually ever raced in period, and it's kind of correct, but the absolute correct way of doing it is the livery that the car was originally raced in or originally launched in, it left the factory in, and that's what this car is. And it's known by everybody at McLaren as Squiggles, which I think is a fantastic name. Probably something that as soon as you hear it, you think, yeah, of course, it makes sense. We've spoken about many of the car's attributes, things like its original launch livery, the fact that it was the factory prototype and development car, that it was the first Longtail car to ever be road converted, and it's UK road registered. But it was born as a GTR Longtail. They were born to go racing, and I think what is very important in the car's life is its race history.
逆のシフトパターンのため少々戸惑っている様子だ。
And this is a car that first raced at the Suzuka 1,000 kilometers in 97. It raced 33 times throughout its life, and it was the last McLaren F1 to ever obtain an overall victory at a major international race. And McLaren F1 at the time was the most expensive car in the world at like £641,000. And when it was £641,000, today, you hear about cars that they just bring anything out and it's 2 million, and let's bring a car out without a roof and it's not usable, and then we'll have a queue from here to the M25 and all around the M25 and back on people who want to buy them. At this time when people were buying cars, they weren't buying them with a collector's mind at the forefront. They weren't buying them thinking to themselves that actually I'm going to buy this car as an appreciating asset, where a lot of people today who buy new supercars, they buy them because they think I should buy that car, and it'll go up in value. When McLaren produced the F1, they produced a car that was phenomenally expensive, but it was expensive because of the R&D, because of the development that went in to producing what was and what is the greatest of all cars. And it's something that until you've experienced it, until you've driven an F1, until you've owned an F1, you'll never fully appreciate it.